All right. Happy to have my next three guests on the One of One Card Shop guest line. They are all three hosts or co-hosts of what's fast becoming probably my favorite sports card hobby podcast. And I'm not just saying that, even though they did promise me money. But it's, they're all. I like to welcome Chad, Tim, and Ricky from Pack to the Future podcast. Welcome, guys.
Thank you so much, John.
So I got to ask you, how many boxes, $1,200 boxes of the Donrus basketball did you buy yesterday?
That is such an absurd price. Yeah, we should look at Tim first of all on this.
No.
You always got to ask him if he purchased it, if he razzed for it, or if I sold a limb for it.
Yeah, Tim will try and find these side outs where we'll ask him, did you spend $5,000 on a product? And he'll say no, because he razzed it for $100.
I wanted in a mega.
Yeah, hey, whatever works. Get in at the cheapest you can. So, but how crazy? I mean, think about that, guys. You know your stuff. 12. I mean, we're not talking national treasures here. We're talking Donrus, and nothing against Donrus. I like Donrus products for the most part, but $1,200. It's just where the hobby is right now. Is even for me, who's done this a long time. It's just when I think I've seen everything, I haven't seen everything, and
Yeah, that price is absurd. And thinking back to last year's Donrus, I don't know what card you could search to pull out of a box from last year to match the value of $1,200 that you put into it. I honestly don't know. The price is just absurd. A lot has changed since last year, but gosh, that price is just ridiculous. I mean, what are the other products going to be if this one starts out at $1,200?
Yeah, what's Prism? If Donrus is $1,200, Prism's going to be like, hey, you turn in your family and we give you a box of Prism, and they stay. You walk out with the Prism box, right? Like,
done.
It's insane. And listen, nothing against this year's rookie class, guys. They're actually playing very well, but I don't think we're. At least not yet. We're not putting them in the same tier as last year's with Ja and Zion and Kobe Whites and RJ Barrett's playing well now, and I know I'm leaving somebody off, but they're not there yet. As well as Wiseman and Melo are playing and Halliburton. We're not going to put them there yet. Actually, I think a lot of people thought this year's class was going to be sort of disappointing, and right. Actually so far so good. But it's not last year's, and yet look at that. That price level. It's head scratching. I think it's going to be obviously a Breakers product. They'll, I love Breakers. They saved the wax industry, but that's I think where that most of the consumption is probably going to come from. I mean, I saw that I just said I'm not unless I walk in to Walmart or Target and find a blaster, I'm not going to be opening any at this price level. Like Chad just said, I mean, even one of probably the best things you could pull would be, you'd almost have to pull that to really come out, ahead at that price level. And just, I started as a 7-year-old kid, and I get that this hobby's sort of not necessarily geared in that direction no more, but I still, when I see that, I just it's really, it still shocks me. And, that's usually kind of what I think about. It's like, I'm a kid. I just want to open some Donrus, but you can't even ask for that for Christmas. Like, you're going to get, sorry, Jimmy, you're going to get the PS5. We can't afford the box of Donrus.
No. So Ricky will still ask for this for Christmas. Now, I'm going to let you guys a little bit behind the curtain. Ricky for Christmas is like a 10-year-old kid.
He is.
Where he kind of reminds me of, what's his name? Dudley Dursley.
Yeah.
Oh, why am I forgetting this? The Harry Potter child who gets X amount of presents for his birthday or Christmas, and the next year he better have one more. That is Ricky, and that's how Ricky expects it with the sports cards as well. So I think that he would still expect that. But Tim and I were talking about this today with the breakers. Like, it's going to have to be a product that you buy through a break, and unless that stops, I don't know how this price trend will end.
Well, and I got to say that I think that the increase in pricing is, at first I thought it was a result of the chase for last year's rookie class, right? All the great players that were coming out. It's clearly a hobby trend at this point, because even football is getting to be unaffordable. For some of the most low-end product is, I'm literally stretching my bank account to pick up a few packs or a box of those.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Score. Speaking of football, Ricky, Score Football came out earlier this year. Where I think it was at $3.50 a box. Score Football, which is traditionally what you see at the bottom rack at Walmart with the clearance stickers all over. Right now, it did eventually come down, but I mean, even to come out at that price, it's just insane. And we wonder why people are going to Walmart and Target and clearing the shelves out because of what hobby prices are at. Can I'm one of those guys. I know people bag on folks that do that. I know I was on your show a few weeks back. I think this might even came up. I don't even blame someone for doing that anymore because, number one, you half the time, more than half the time, 90% of the time, you go to Walmart, you're not even going to find anything anyway. No. And so the 10% of the time you do, you probably should buy it all, quite frankly, because we might not get in that situation again. And it's right now it's a $20 blaster, and those days are probably going to go away too. I think we're going to see retail prices probably go up to $30 a blaster. I know there are some products that are, and then $40. And these companies, they're not stupid. They see what's going on. They somebody in that company's telling someone else, "Hey man, do you see what Prism? The Prism boxes we have at Walmart for $20. They're going for $400 now." And they don't want to leave money on the table either. We forget. As much as they want to make collectors happy, they're also a business with operating costs, and they're watching that stuff as well. So I don't know where, someone asked me, I'm sure you guys get the same questions from your listeners, like, how does this end? How does this movie end? How does this ride stop? Or is it going to be bad? Is it going to be gradual? Like, this can't keep going up. I mean, there's got to be a ceiling. There's got to be an end point. And I always, when I get asked that question, I always say I don't know the answers. I thought 2020 with COVID-19, I thought the hobby was going to take it on the chin, like I said on your guys' show a few weeks back, and we saw the opposite happen. So my guess is as good as maybe I should ask you. What do you think? But I think we're going to see more of them rather than a crash. I think the hobby's too strong for an absolute bottom to drop out. I think we're going to see what I would call like a market correction. I think like I mentioned with the Score Football, came out at that $350 price level. People gasped, myself included, like, what? And then it did come back down. I think we're going to see more of that across the board, and not just in wax, but certain key cards and different certain cards. We saw the rise of the second year cards, right? LeBron James Laker rookies, they were coined. We're inventing. That's the other thing the hobby's doing. It's like reinventing itself in terminology, right? The 17th year LeBron card all of a sudden is his Lakers rookie, and it's a Prism $60, right? So I think I'll let you guys. I'll get your. I just think we're going to see sort of a leveling off or a market correction rather than just a sky is falling type of deal.
Well, and John, I think that Panini's going to do their damnedest to find out what that limit is. They're pricing their product. They are pushing those limits. I hope you're right, John, and I do think it is more likely to be a market correction because, as I mentioned just a minute ago, that you're seeing it across multiple sport platforms. This is not just a single year basketball is hot trend. It seems to be staying, and I think that's a good thing. I think part of it's the attention that celebrities have brought to the hobby. Some of it's the new grading techniques, such as PSA, that they're using, even though they're backlogged for a year and a half. But I really am hopeful that it will be a market correction because while it is more difficult to buy boxes the way things are going right now, let's remember it is making the base cards and inserts and parallels so valuable. And I think that's a lot of fun when collecting, that any one pack can have a treasure trove for you.
Ricky, we've done a podcast for about a year. That is the most insightful thing you have said.
Why couldn't you come on? And he came on this shit, and he came on here and did it. So
he's been practicing that for a week.
You won't get any of that if you check out our show.
We'll have to have you on every week here, even if it's for like 10 minutes, just to bring that to the table. So.
Ricky's spent. He's done.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, but you're right. You're right, Ricky. That, it's brought more attention back to the base card and even inserts and stuff that as someone who started in 1979, before all the stuff we're accustomed to now, base cards always have a sentimental place for me, and that aspect's good. I think when wax gets sort of out of reach for people, I think then they go into buying singles and cards they want, and to stay involved. I think that's probably a good byproduct of when wax gets sort of out of reach or to that level. And I know myself, I'm always buying in the hobby, but the last few years I've really ramped up just buying single cards or lots, or even some collections, and the other thing I tend to do, and I've advised people do this, on my show, is when wax gets expensive like that, let's be real, the chances of you purchasing that box at that level and coming out ahead when all the smoke clears, not very good. And so what I like to do, sounds kind of rude, but when other people open that stuff and they don't do as well and they're trying to recoup some of their losses at some level, I like to buy that stuff, and it gets me in at a little cheaper rate. And with all the platforms now that we have, from ComC to StarStock to eBay and Sports Lots, it's easy to really kind of spread that stuff out and and move it. And if you get it at the right price, you can do all right. And I think we all can agree nothing beats the adrenaline of opening a pack of cards or a box of cards. It's probably the funnest thing you can do in the hobby. But at some point you gotta be smart about it too, and the stuff's not getting any cheaper.
Right.
No. So I wonder, are the high price of boxes going to? So John, you would know all about this. Would this be the end of the local card shop if people quit purchasing boxes of cards? Does that affect card shop owners, or do card shop owners mostly make their money off of selling singles?
Well, I think what you've seen now with the mod, I had a store back in the 90s, and like I said on your guys' show, that template wouldn't work today. That would fail. That would be a failed business plan. I think what works for today's LCS owners is just diversifying, just carrying everything, and a good amount of it. A lot of what do we see a lot of these card stores doing, right? They're doing breaks. They're doing breaks, and they're doing other things. They're posting a lot online. They have a huge online presence. I don't think you can just buy or rent a property, put an open sign on the door, and think that's all you have to do, and it's like Field of Dreams, and just cars are going to start streaming in out of nowhere, right? Like in that movie. I think you got to have an online presence. Truthfully, I think you have to have that even before you open the store. And I think you've seen some of the stores of people I know. They really beefed up their online following and then opened their brick and mortar store. And I think that's how you have to do it. I think if you don't do it that way, I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat, but I think that's probably the best way. If you do it the other way around, it's more of an uphill battle that you're sort of up against.
Well, those stores are our Disneyland, so they better not go anywhere.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is I'm seeing in our local card shop when Chad and I went there last Saturday, and you're seeing a lot more retail. It's almost a hobby shop.
Yeah.
Becoming the retail shops.
Yeah.
They can afford, and that's what they can sell.
Yep. It's true. They carry more retail. I had Chris Kelsey on, who's the owner of Nash Cards, and he said on the show, like, John, I'm having trouble getting wax, and then I got people who are going to Walmart paying $20 for the blaster and then coming in here. Hey, what do you give me for these? And he goes, I not ideal, but if for some products, if I even want to offer it to a customer, that's the way I'm going to have to obtain it. And he goes, and he says there's some things I won't carry just because I don't even want to charge the customer what I'd have to charge them because of what I'd have to pay. And so I won't do it. Another thing a lot of card stores are doing, guys, this too, is grading submissions as part of their store. Nash Cards is one of the bigger, I mentioned Chris Kelsey just because he was recently on. He's not the only one. Our sponsor of our show, 101 Card Shop in Ohio, huge. He's gotten into the grading submission and the breaking. You got to do a little bit of everything is really what it comes down to. If you're an LCS owner, you got to have some wax. Obviously, you got to have singles. I think you got to offer some breaks. And then I think you got to offer grading submission, whatever company you choose to, represent or do. But I think you got to sort of diversify the services you offer. You can't just, if a store opens up and says, listen, I'm just doing baseball cards and I'm just doing singles, no wax. Will they sell something? Sure. But, unless they got a great deal on rent or they just own the building outright, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. And, it's tough because, one of the reasons I sort of got out of the store the 5 years I did the store was eBay came along, and I was competing against this invisible store. People were coming in and saying, John, hey, can you do, $20 on that? I can get it on eBay for 18. And I'm like, eBay? At the time, I didn't know what eBay was. Like, eBay, what's that? I learned real quick, right, what eBay was. And so as a store owner, I had a choice. Like, I got to, if I'm going to, and now I'm not worried about that store that's 4 miles away from me that I'm competing against. Now I'm competing against this invisible worldwide entity that is on the market. And so there's just the competition is fierce, but at the same time, the community is very good too. People work together. A lot of the LCSs are even friendly with each other. I think I think it was a little more cutthroat in some aspects in the 90s with stores because, you had less products and you had, finite sales that you could make, and grading was around, but it was not at the level we know it as today. And so, that store that was 4 miles from me that I mentioned, you think, did not, I tried to extend sort of an olive branch, but that particular person really didn't want too much of that. And it's funny, I've told this story before, but we were more, and I had a partner, so I don't want to say I all the time. It was we were definitely with cards and wax, and that store that was 4 miles away was more comic books, and that was which was cool because we kind of carry different things. But then he started doing some stuff for the sake of time. I won't get into detail, but pretty nasty stuff, not very nice. And I remember my partner is Angelo. He goes, you want to start selling some comics? And I'm like, the rest is history. I remember we bought 5,000 comic books from a collector that was looking to to get out, and and we kind of, almost a little bit of a turf war there, because we were trying to have a working relationship with them. Hey, you don't have this, we'll send them your way, vice versa. And not only did he not want a part of that, he actually just started doing some really nasty things and saying some untruths, if you will. And I remember Angelo, I walked in and he goes, "You ready to buy some comics?" And I'm like, "All right, you want to do this?" He goes, "Yeah, I think we should do it." So, and the rest is history. But
those grudges seem to hold. I mean, it's almost like an Anchorman style brawl in the back streets. We have a buddy who I won't name, but he used to work for a card shop here in Salt Lake City. And our local card shop, who we love dearly, and we never want that place to go anywhere. And we will defend this person till the day that we die. Mm-hmm. But when this owner, whose current owner, realized that our friend was a worker at another store, there is still animosity there. And this has been 20 years. And it's like, where does this come from? But clearly there are some turf wars that those grudges don't go away.
Yeah, I think it was worse then, more so than now, but I'm sure it still occurs. Anytime you get money involved, that's the risk that you run, and people will, do crazy stuff, even with their own family members when it comes to money. And so, it's unfortunately one of the bad fringe benefits, I guess you'll say, of that. But it is what it is. I want to talk about Pack to the Future. One of my favorite shows, and really love what you guys do. And the one thing that I love in particular is you talk about real stuff, what's going on in your hobby lives, and even outside of hobby lives. You bring a little bit of the your personal lives in there, and no two shows are going to be the same when you do that. You guys you're honest, you laugh at yourselves, you laugh at each other, and I appreciate that. I'm only here by myself on Sports Card Nation, and I laugh at myself, but it's not as fun as you guys have. And kudos. I think it's great content. You're having fun, and it's one of my big things I always say with this hobby, guys, is if you're not having fun, like, what are we doing here, right? And I understand you might have a bad day, and that's in any facet of whatever hobby or real life, so even work lives, right? Have a bad day, but if you're real, you gotta be having some fun with what you're doing, and you guys bring that to the table, to the show. And it's one of the few times, like, I'll be in the car listening to you guys, and I'll laugh out loud. And it's usually just me on my commute to or from work. And whoever's, if it's a red light, and whoever's next to me is like, "What's up with that guy? This is maniac."
Well, we're lucky. We're lucky because we have a Tim. every year really needs a Tim. That one friend that will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on ridiculous hobby product. It is a degenerate razzer, because then you have all the best stories.
It's true. It's true.
Well, I want to, at this point, Tim, if it doesn't work out at Pack to the Future, I want you to know I got a spot here at Sports Card Nation. I need a Tim too.
We'll trade you Tim for future card considerations right now.
Cards to be the famous cards to be named later. Trade.
Yeah, exactly.
Case of Prism. Yeah.
Well, I just had to fire my GM because he sent some nasty photos and texted, so I can't make that trade right now until I hire a new GM. But all joke, like, again, you guys do a great job. I mean, a little bit, if you can go kind of around the horn, whatever order you want to get, your hobby backgrounds. How did you start in the hobby? I want to give each one of you a chance kind of to talk about that.
Why don't you go first, Chad?
Okay, so started at a young age, just like most people, collected with my family, my sister, and even my cousin, who was a big John Elway fan and got me into the Broncos. opened a lot of packs, went to the card shop a lot, and we didn't have a lot of money to buy them, but we always had packs and always just loved ripping into them. Really was in it in the early 90s and collected a lot of the inserts. The Shaquille O'Neal year in basketball, the 1992 rookie year, was really the huge year for me where I collected sets and really got into that and just loved the inserts. Still love the inserts to this day. And then you can insert the prototypical story here. Went away from it in high school and college, mostly due to cost, and then started having some disposable income. Got back into it and told nobody. Absolutely nobody, because I was absolutely ashamed of it. I was collecting cardboard with pictures of grown adults on them. And I think one day I accidentally leaked it to Ricky and Tim and found out that they too enjoyed collecting pieces of cardboard. And it was like a light clicked and music started playing and butterflies started coming around and it was all glorious. Now here we are. So that's my very long-winded story of where I came from.
That was pretty short for you, Chad.
Tim, go ahead, Tim. Similar for you, or?
Yeah, so I was actually just looking through things again. I'm a big fan of Frank Thomas. Grew up a White Sox fan. Who knows why? Grown in the suburbs of Chicago. Everybody else was a Cubs fan. Just went against the grain. But he's one of my favorite players, and so I still remember. So it would have been like 4th grade, I think. I finally saved up enough to run down to the local card shop, and there was this Frank Thomas in Stadium Club, 1991 Stadium Club, that I was just like super jazzed about getting. And that was just such a cool moment. I mean, it was in the display case. It was shiny to me. I spent my $20 on cards that day in the shop, and it's a memory that sticks with you, right? And life happened. Important grades in school had to happen. And so, fell out of the hobby, 10, 20 years, didn't get back into it until, basically Chad mentioned cards. And this was after a pretty historic summer of 2016, where I had a pretty ridiculous summer playing in the World Series of Poker and going on a little run in Vegas and had disposable income again. And so went a little ham on cases of products and really just kind of soaked myself back up into the hobby. I soaked up every little bit of information I could between breaks, cases of product, cards, the Facebook groups I kind of fell into, learned about grading, buying, selling, flipping, all of it. And so just a little bit of everything here and there. Here we are. So
and that's a nice story that Doc and Tim gave you, but I'm going to fix a couple things. Similar to Chad, grew up at the same time, had my younger brother and my cousin who was the same age. We would collect together. We had a local card shop that was kitty corner to a Pizza Hut and a Blockbuster Video. And that was our Friday night jam. My mom, when my brother and I had done all our chores, we were well behaved that week. We got to hit the trifecta. And so I grew up with it until about 14 and then fell away. And then Chad actually got me into it about 5 years ago, brought me back. And he was explaining to me how you could buy boxes and get autographs. And when I had left the hobby, that was not a thing. So I completely misunderstood what he was trying to explain. I go with him to the card shop one day, and as he mentioned, the rest is history. As to Tim had come over to Chad's house to watch Chad and I open a pack of football, elite football. And
that's right. Yeah.
Tim spent the entire time making fun of us for collecting cardboard of a grown man.
He was the heckler? He was heckling you?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And that was a Tuesday, I think. Let's do the math. Carry the 3. Yeah. 48 hours later, he was spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Upper Deck Master Collection, trying to chase a Stanley Cup.
You were buying cases almost immediately after that. Cases. I've never bought a case in my life, and you were buying multiple cases.
Well, listen, I'm gonna use a poker term here. He went all in. Like you're either all in or you're all out, right? I mean, there's no in between.
You went all in. That's right. I forgot about that.
That's funny. And that's awesome. And it's those stories, guys. I mean, while some may be similar, no two, they're almost like snowflakes, not exactly always the same. And I always ask that whoever the guest is, sort of how it all started. And I like to do it too, because I think even with whoever that person is on the show, it's you can tell they sort of like going back there, reminiscing. Hey, how did I get here? Where did it all come from? And I love to hear it as much as they do too. And so with Chad and Tim, you're in the medical field. Ricky, you're in the legal field. Do you like a lot of the people you work with or around? Do they number one? Do they know you do cards, or do they do cards? I mean, what is like the percentages? What's the vibe there with like coworkers and people? Other than obviously yourselves.
Yeah, I'll start with this one and give the other guys a couple seconds to think. I have a couple of cards that I display in my office. And that is kind of my gauge as to who gets to know about the podcast and who doesn't. If you pick up one of these cards and start asking me about it, I'll tell you I have a podcast. If not, I'm not saying word. But I do think it has come out. There is one particular judge that I'm assigned to work in front of primarily, and I think it's come out in that courtroom. So I think the attorneys I work with in there and the defense attorneys and judge may know. But it's a small number, although I will say we did have a new hire who I knew well, and he and I got talking. He was one that picked up a card, and I did tell him about the podcast, and he's going to accompany us to one of our trips out to our local card shop here soon. So that was kind of cool to connect with someone that you think may have forgotten about the product or the hobby, and he had a real clear understanding, and so that was kind of fun to connect with him on a new level.
That's cool.
Let's see, Tim, I'll go first and then you can finish and then we can go in backwards for the next one. So for the most part, no. Usually the topic of card podcast hasn't come up a whole lot, like during prostate exams or different mental health. However,
I haven't had one of those yet. I think we're coming to that point. I want to let's talk cards during that thing.
It's debatable if they're necessary
I don't want to be talking about other things, probably other than that cards are sports, but that's about it.
But no, I will say this: there was a topic, I forget how it came up. There was actually a patient I was talking to, and actually we were talking about how to spend time and stress relief during this pandemic. And he kind of hinted to me about sports cards, kind of in a similar fashion of how I talked to it about other people. Now I'm much more open about it, but I was a little shy about it a couple of years ago. And so I took it and ran. And we had a conversation, I kid you not, for a half an hour, just talking about a sports card collection that he had stored underneath his stairs, and how he still has sealed boxes of basketball cards that are just there. And so from that standpoint, I didn't tell him about the podcast, but again, just one of those things that you can bond over, and you never really know who's going to be into the hobby. And when you start having those conversations, then you have a new level of friendship. I mean, otherwise, gosh, John, like we'd never be here talking to you if it wasn't for sports cards, right? So those things come up every once in a while. But
I wouldn't completely rule it out. I might go halfway across the country for a prostate exam, and maybe. But yeah, you're right. Probably not as likely.
Yeah, no, I don't know that I've had such a rewarding conversation with anybody in clinic about it, but usually the conversation goes this way. So, hey, Tim, what do you like doing for fun here in Utah? And usually the answer is supposed to be like skiing, hiking, biking. And when I say sports cards, they say sports cars. No, I'm like, cards, CARDS. And then that's about the end of the conversation. So.
Well, yeah, that's funny. But Chad alluded to this earlier. There was years ago, you were kind of you didn't really advertise cards. It was sort of looked, that's sort of nerdy. And now it's like it's like the hip thing to do. We got celebrities, we got the athletes themselves getting involved in the card industry. Now you don't have to be ashamed about it. And I like Ricky's idea too. just throw like a litmus test, throw a couple cards out. It's almost like baiting the trap, right? You're like, let's see if they take it. You know, I was picking it up. I got him. You know, so, but it's not as big as I don't know the word. You know, it's you don't have to be as ashamed. Although I never really was. I don't think we're really ashamed, but sort of self-conscious about it. Maybe is a better way to.
Well, and I think that we all probably have a thought that it's for children because we all came back to it.
Not anymore.
You're right. And the dynamic has totally shifted. I think it's become mainstream. I think it's become, frankly, cool to collect.
Yeah. Hey, it's on financial network news. It's on regular news.
Right.
You know, 3 months ago, the local news found out about me here and came here and did a piece and called me up on the phone. I thought it was a prank. You know, I'm like, who told you to do this and who is this? And they're like, no, it's so and so, the sports editor at Spectrum. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, really. He goes,
that's cool.
And they came here. They were, it's funny. They were here. They we scheduled it for Saturday. He was here like 3-4 hours. Not a big deal, but it seemed longer. But it was 3-4, and the piece that run was like 3 minutes. Like,
right?
It's
just
funny how.
Check out your collection.
What's that?
You just want to check out your collection.
Yeah, But even his name's Eric Columbia. He's the sports editor at Spectrum News here in Syracuse, and he brought his cards with him. And part of the piece was me looking through his cards and having to tell him good, bad, or ugly. And wasn't very pretty for him, but they wanted me. I even asked him before he hit record, like, how honest do you want me to be? Do you want me to if it's not good to sort of sugarcoat it, or he's like, no, give me the straight scoop. And so, I wasn't mean about it, but I'm like, yeah, it's the junk wax era. They just didn't stop the presses. And, he had a couple $10 or $20 cards, maybe 2 or 3. And I highlighted those for sure. And, the piece kind of ends with him saying, so John, I'm not going to be able to retire today and quit my sports job here at Spectrum. I'm like, no, we'll see you on Monday.
Hey, John, I'm just curious if you'll offer that same brutal, honest service to Tim here for his graded card.
Well, listen, I've graded a lot of cards like we discussed on your guys' show, and I stuck up for Tim on that show too, if I remember right.
You did.
When I first started grading way back when, I was not really looking at the cards very good. I was just, I want to get this card graded without consideration for what shape the card was actually in. And so when I was getting, and at the time it was really mostly Beckett that I was using. And so I was getting a lot of these 8s and 8.5s. I remember even a 7.5 with that white label, which was like laughing at you. Like, I got your $10 and you got the white label, and I just learned, the one thing I learned is you obviously gotta take a good look, including surface, corner, everything, the whole shebang, and you got to be really critical yourself. That was the mistake I made too, guys. Was like I'd see something, that corner's not exactly. They won't catch that. Kind of like giving myself a pass, like I would be grading my own cards, right? That's not how it works. And so you got to be really self-critical. And I'll start with, let's say, a stack of 100 cards, and kind of, I do the first inspections all non-magnification, just all human eye, and then so even with that, maybe after that, now there's 75 cards left. 25 just with the naked eye, I'm like, I can't send that. And so now you're down to 75, and then I put on the glasses I got here with the magnification and the light. I highly recommend any kind of tool that can make you see the card better. And then you go through the 75 cards and you whittle. Usually my stack of original 100 cards is down in the 40, 50 range on a good day. And right. And I've just had more success. I've learned by trial and error in a lot of things, not just the grading. We're talking about grading here. And, there's sometimes there might be a card sort of on the bubble. I'm like, this could be a 9 or it could be an 8.5. Do I send it? A lot of times in those situations, it comes down to the card itself. Like, is the card even at an 8.5 still pretty not too bad in that grade, right? And that might be what gets it sent in. Then you get it back and you got a 9, and you're like, all right, that's even more, better than I anticipated. And so you learn sometimes, the hard way. I think I still have some of those Beckett's 8 in the box, just like, taunting me from the corner. Yeah. I love that thing. I love it.
I was going to say,
Ricky, put that away.
Since our last
show. For those who can't see that are listening to the audio version, these are what I call them is jeweler's magnification glasses, and that's really what they're originally for. But we've adapted them here in the hobby, and I use them too. Mine look like let's see if I can reach them. Mine look like Oakley's. And the lenses flip down. So
nice.
Oh yeah, they do.
So they're like this.
Man, look at those.
So they go up, and then the lenses come down, or they come out because they have different magnifications, and then there's a light on it. But whatever tool you wear, even I always tell collectors, because I get that question a lot especially because people know I do grade a lot, like, hey, what if I don't really want to wear glasses, or I already wear glasses. They won't fit over my glasses. I'll get a regular old dollar store, Dollar Tree magnifying glass, right? It's the same. It's the same difference, right? And, anything you can use, if you're into grading, anything you can use, because guess what? When you send it to whoever you're sending it to for grading, they're using magnification too. So why would you not use the same tools before you send it off to someone else that's going to do the same thing?
You mentioned this when you came on our show a few weeks ago, John, and I was just showing you that Chad actually picked them up for the whole show. So the whole show has matching glasses.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
But you know what, guys? So I did not use loops. I did not use a magnifying lens. I used my eyes when I went 40 for 40 on my 2018 optic submission for just Lucas. 40 for 40. So that's why I get so mad when I got that PSA 6. You're telling me that I really sent that in? No.
Are you claiming?
Well, listen. I'm gonna stick up for you again too, Tim, here, because this is another topic that comes up on my show when we're talking about grading. Right? Grading is subjective, right?
It is.
We're all graders, all 4 of us, right? And 2 of us had a great night with a significant other. We come to work, we're in good spirits, and 2 of us not so much, right? That our attitudes or how we're feeling might be what turns a grade one way or the other. Oh man, I'm in a great mood. This might be an 8.5, but this guy's lucky day, it's a 9, right? And I just had an argument with my wife. I'm so mad, right? It's 8. This is either 8.5, 9, 8. It's getting an 8. Screw it, right? I feel better a little bit already, right? And it's just, that's why people. I'm not particularly fond of the thought of it, but that's why a lot of people want to see automation in grading. They want to take that emotional element out of it. Now, my fear is just that whatever the automation, whatever the tool is, it just goes on the fritz, and like everyone either gets all 8s or everyone gets all 10s, and the whole thing's upside down. I hope if it goes fully automated, I hope there is a human at the end of that to just kind of give it at least a real quick look-see and make sure. We saw earlier this year, guys. I'm sure you saw that Zion Prism from Beckett. Let's it's not a secret. That was a black label that in a picture from 2,000 miles away, wasn't a black label 10. And I don't want to see that. I understand mistakes happen in all facets of employment and life, but that stuff, I want to try to see less of it rather than more. And so my fear is with a computer doing it, if something slips by the computer and we don't have a human kind of fail safe there, just to kind of before that thing gets packaged up and sent back somewhere. And you know, someone say, well, John, if it was your card, you'd want that black label 10. No, not really. Not when it's that obvious, because that's gonna be in my showcase, and someone's gonna ask to see it, and they'll be like, "Are you kidding me, man? Do you see this?" And I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, "Yeah, I do." What am I gonna say? Like, will you still pay like the exorbitant price anyway? Because it does have a black label that says 10 on it. Right, you know, so
I just started slipping $5 in the back of all my card saver ones. It works perfect. And
I have
so
never done
agree
that.
with you. It's got to have a human touch to it, because otherwise the machines won't pick up those dollar bills.
Yep.
Well, no, and it can be a liability as well. I've got a stack of graded cards next to me that I'm getting ready to list. One of them is a Jamal Murray rookie autograph, and it graded a PSA 10. On the back of it, there is very clearly a print line right down the middle. And this card is not going to sell cheaply. And I am worried that I'm going to get the old money back request when they get to take a look at it. Because when you're paying that kind of price for that quality of a card, you expect it to be a PSA 10, no visible defections.
I'm going to contact the buyer of this thing and tell him I know that there's a print line on the back of that. Return that at day 29.
Yeah, buy
just under the buzzer. Just
buy that one wisely. Yeah,
yeah, but you know, it's true, Ricky, and you know, I have a lot of graded cards, and you know, if you know, it's that dilemma, because you know, you're in that position. If you're an honest, decent person, you don't, you know, there's plenty of money to be made, but there's the right way to do it too. And you know, it's that's why, I mean, I want to see sort of a human failsafe. If it goes automation, I know there's a company right now, I don't know much about them. I think they're called Hybrid Grading. They're supposedly have went full automation. What that entails, I don't know. I don't know if that means they put it in a microwave, open the microwave up, and then look at it themselves. You know, there's so much. I've never even heard of the company. I'm not, again, they could be the next biggest thing, but I don't know about them. I mean, we all know the CSG that's entered the arena. They're starting to take submissions literally in a week or two here. And you know, people don't realize, like, we talk about, you know, the big three or the big four, you know, Beckett, PSA, SGC. If you want to consider give CSG, throw them in there because of they're already being established in the coins and comic books grading aspect. But there's 26 other grading companies about, you know, the GMAs and all different letters, you know. But they're not really taken seriously. And so, you know, I just want to see, you know, especially the mainstream ones, I want to see as accurate as you can be on my own cards too. If, you know, as much as I want a 10, if they see something that's, hey, that's a 9, John, and then it is what it is, you know, makes you appreciate the 10s when you get them, I think. You know, if they were just giving out 10s too easy, some people feel like that is the case, then it really hurts the overall product. You know, it's the Oprah effect of grading. You get a 10, you get a 10, you get, you know, I don't want that. As much as that's fun, you know,
I'm
initially.
willing to have other people not get as many 10s so that my 10s are better. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. But you know, speaking of grading too, I want to segue. You know, I just heard your recent episode, and you brought up something that made me laugh, because it's true, and it's, you know, because of the way we all know the wait times, and I don't care what grading, you know, of the major grading companies, they're backlogged right now. You're looking at a minimum, literally, unless you're going like super express service, if you're going any of the basic services, you're looking at 4 months or much longer. And longer. You know, and you know, I've sent stuff, and you guys said this, like, you forget what you send, and then you get your stuff back, like, oh, I had that card and I sent it. It's like getting it for the first time. It's like opening the pack and re-pulling the card because you don't remember, getting it the first time. And that's happened to me. Like, oh man, I forgot that was in that sub. It's a pretty funny moment. And hearing you talk about it.
In Jim and I's case, it's, oh yeah, I forgot I sent that. Why did I submit that?
Chad took it one further. We were talking about the fake slabs, and he was like, there's no way you have a fake BGS slab because nobody's gotten one back in 2020. Or something like that.
That's true. No, Tim, you and I were just talking about a sub. You helped me with my first several. And you submitted them for me, which I greatly appreciate. And one of them just came back. We submitted that back in May of last year for a 45-day service.
Yep.
And there was a Jaw Morant Net Marvels, and I completely forgot that card was in there. Tim, you and I were kind of scrolling through at the same time, and you're like, "Oh, you got a Jaw Net Marvels." I was like, "What? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's a good card. That's a key card."
It's just funny how that, and it's
So
happened
bad.
to me. Like I forgot that number one, that I actually had that, and number two, I forgot that I even put it in the sub. And you make another great point that the times are so long that sometimes the cards you send, I've had this happen more than once. It's like I wouldn't have subbed that now. Like I subbed that 7 months ago, and I'm getting it back now 7 months later. But if I could mulligan that, I would take it out of the slab. Can I sub another one? And it's even though I got a 10, let me just sub another one and take my chance. It's because of the times, right? That shows you the volatility of the hobby right now, and how a card can go from one level to the next rather quickly in both ways, up to down in that case, or the other way. I look through my stuff sometimes, and it's a card like I didn't think too highly of prior, and I'm like, this stuff's now at this level, and I'm going to sub this. It might be the same card. I'm going to sub these 5 as long as they pass that inspection. I'm going to send them in now, and those change. That was a card I looked at one time and said, "Nice card, but I'm not going to consider it for grading." But yet now here we are, and the temperature's changed on it, and it's that's the fun of the hobby. It's just every day is just a whole nother show, a whole nother day, and things can change. I say on Sports Card Nation all the time, like. When I was in a hobby many moons ago, you could go into not that I wish this on anyone, you could go into a coma for 2 years, come out and like just hit the ground running in the hobby again. You can't do that. If that happens now, you'd have to relearn like the hobby, all over again. And that's part of that is the fun of it. It's just you have to be active to stay on top of trends and what's going on. You can't really take you can take some days off, but you can't take a significant amount of time off, and you're going to lose sort of what it's just ever evolving.
Right.
Yep.
I would love to see the inside of the warehouse, like at PSA, and just see boxes stacked. Like they should put a camera, live feed in there and pinpoint where your box is. And every day when they go to grab the box, think how exciting it would be if you could see your box being grabbed and knowing that it's going to be graded.
Like, you think those are boxes?
Lose my mind.
You think those are boxes? Those are all just stacks of Hard Saver 1.
Oh gosh, millions of them.
I'd like to think, all joking aside, I'd like to think, I'm assuming they probably do have some of their own cameras in there just to monitor in case something was to happen. If that Onus Wagner somehow, hey, where's my Onus Wagner? They have some sort of footage to review and say, hey, what happened in the history of this card? We checked it in here, right. It wound up here, and then that's where it fell off the radar, and let's go to the tape, as they say. And like you said, it would be interesting just to watch them, and even the graders, how much interaction between them, and I know most of the grading companies will, it usually has to go by 2 or 3 people that agree sort of this is the grade. but I don't, just to see that literally in motion would be pretty interesting, you know, and just how that dynamic works.
I would watch that all day.
They could charge. It'd be like pay-per-view. You know?
Sign me up.
For another 30 minutes, please accept the $10 charge.
It's like a 1-900 number.
Yeah.
Guys, they're only 4 pallets away from mine. I think I'll be ready by like next Wednesday. I'll see you then.
Yeah. What I wonder, you know, this is how my mind works. Like, obviously, they're not a 24/7 operation. I don't believe anyone's grading a card at 3 a.m. I could be wrong. I think they have normal business hours, but is there someone like, you know, is there a guy with like a shotgun, like in a Doberman, like just doing the rounds and just making sure like there's no funny business, like, you know, because I mean, you think, like you said, think about the stuff that's in that building, right? We see people crash. We see people crash their car through a convenience store front door just to grab the ATM machine or for, you know, $2,000 in the ATM machine. Here you got a building that has millions of dollars. Let's be honest, millions of dollars of cards sitting there, even in raw form. They're valuable, even if they're not graded yet. I'd like to think that somemon's there. You know,
no way. It's like Paul Blart on a Segway. You know.
Yeah, I was thinking. You know, the vision came to me. It's like Don Knotts, Barney Fife from like Mayberry.
Yeah, basically.
Like Andy, there's a guy in here. He's taking cards.
It looks like him.
Hey, what pie did that bee make? I'll be home in like 2 hours. But you know,
for some reason, nothing's been touched, but all the PSA 6s are gone.
You're never gonna they're never gonna let you go, Tim.
I'm
a whole pile of bear.
No, I'm personally contributing to the junk slab error. That's fine.
But yeah, you know, but I wonder, like, I like to hope and think there's some sort of I'm sure there's alarms and all that, but I almost think you need to have someone inside as well. I mean, because we've seen people do crazy stuff. Look what we just saw. I don't want to bring politics in this, right? But look what we just saw last week, right? You know, people will do some insane stuff, and that was with real no money involved there. Here we have millions of dollars involved, and so I would be a question if I ever have anyone. I haven't had anyone other than like the bulk submitters, but if I had anyone from that side, it'd be a question, and you guys too, I would ask, you know, hey, what happens, you know, after 5 p.m. in the building?
Yeah,
you know, and you know, I don't know if they'd even be able to tell you. Maybe it's sort of like, hey, I have to, this will be your last episode. Say goodbye to your listeners, you know. But we will tell you, but that'll be it, you know. So.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if they said, we're not telling you. I mean, think of the sheer value that is located. I mean, that is similar to a money, any bank. It has to be on par with a lot of banks with the value of those cards.
I always thought it was weird. Like, even when you submit your cards, obviously you send it to that address, right? I would almost think, like, if I'm a grading company, I would use a different address to receive the card, so no one has to know other than employees know where the building is, right? I don't want to advertise, hey, here's the building where all these cards get sent to, right? You know, but
where all the graders are kept barefoot and shirtless.
You know, I mean, look what the way they protect Fort Knox. That's like crazy.
Yeah,
it's just not very far off. You know, in card form anyway, instead of gold blocks. And some would argue the cards have a better ROI right now than gold. It's pretty close. So. You know, it just I'd love to know, and you know, maybe I'll do some Google. I don't know if I'll find anything, but might be a future Google search in there somewhere, you know. But it's definitely interesting, and you know, maybe we'll never. It might be like you know, we might know that UFOs are real, before we know what goes on in a grading facility. If you believe everything you read on the internet. But guys, again, I want to thank you for coming on. I love what you're doing. For those out there, Pack to the Future podcast. I don't always rave about other shows, even though there are many other ones out there. But this is one of mine in must listens in my playlist. And glad these three gentlemen came on. We had some fun, had some laughs, and check them out, guys. I'll give you some final words. Anything you want to say, give out websites where they can find the show, all that good stuff.
We would leave this to Ricky, but usually he butchers it. So naturally, I'll put Tim on the spot. Tim, go ahead and tell these guys.
Oh gosh,
you can check us out on Instagram at Pack to the Future Podcast. That's probably the main place to check us out, as well as, of course, our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you get your iTunes. We should be up there. Please check us out. We'd love to have you on our show and or have you join us. And John, thank you very much for having us on. We are huge fans of yours, and it is absolutely been a dream to come on here and spend an hour with you.
I did. How much more did that cost me? Like, because I already agreed. Like, is that like you just threw that in on top of what or is that like the meter's still running?
I might need a little tip for that. We might need a little.
Well, I listen. I appreciate, and the feelings honestly mutual. And I'm one of those guys. Anyone that listens to the show knows I want. Whether you've done this. Whether you've done a podcast for 1 year, 3 years, if the content's great, which I believe yours is, you can take away however long you've done it. It is what it is, and that's how I honestly feel. And I'm glad you came on. I was happy to come on your show a few weeks back, and we cut it up, we laugh, we have fun, and that's really what the hobby should be about. There's enough sometimes, the bad side. I like to have fun, and I know you guys do too.
Yeah.
Hey, one of these times you're going to have us back on. I want to have the podcast with you in the hot tub.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's it's here in the Northeast. The temperatures are dropping, so I'm going in the hot tub. Recording's not on my mind when I'm in there. Matter of fact, as soon as we're done here, I think I have an appointment with it here. When I start doing those again, I definitely want to have. The only ones I've had were just one-on-ones, but we'll definitely do a Pack to the Future. Hot tub, hobby hot tub. So
we'll all sit in our bathtubs.
Yeah, just for full effect. There you go. Not the same one, I hope.
Oh, no.
Bloop.
Oh man.
All right. Thanks, guys. Again, everybody. I can't, it's gonna sound like an infomercial, but that's how good the show really is. Pack to the Future podcast. Check them out. What are you in? You're in the 40s, right? 47, I think.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Coming up on 48.
Yeah, but in like some very small countries, we're like number one.
I get those.
He means episode number.
Yeah, I get those too. But that is a true point too, though. But and again, the other great thing about your pod is you can listen to whatever episode. It's evergreen. It's still relevant. It's still funny, and I love what you guys are doing. Thanks again, fellas.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.